And our heart goes out tonight to the families, people in Kaduna State, and those who have lost their loved ones in that sad incident. And the tragic scene in the Tundum Burni community in the Igabi local government area of Kaduna State, where about 85 persons we understand now have now been confirmed dead. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tauri Lagwaja, has described the deadly airstrike that killed the 85 people and injured several others in Kaduna State as regrettable. He said the victims 2 days after the accidental strike in the Igabi area of the northwest state promised to guard against such an occurrence in the conduct of military operations in the future. The army chief, who also visited the state at the site of the mishap, has thrown the nation into a sorrowful mood, apologized on behalf of the Nigerian military to the community, the government, and the people of Kaduna City. He was accompanied by principal staff officers from the army headquarters and the general officer commanding the 1st Division, and also met with the Dangala Dima Zozo, the district head of Rigasa, Aminu Idris, and all the leaders and members of the community. The Minister of State for Defense, Bello Matawale, has also visited, is being on the ground, speaking about this. The President, Bola Tinubu, has in fact ordered a thorough investigation in the incident. Take a listen to the Chief of Army Staff and the Minister of State for Defense.
My assessment of that unfortunate incident of Sunday, the 3rd of December 2023, is that it's grave, it's regrettable, but we will do everything possible to prevent such an occurrence happening again in the conduct of our operations going forward. I've gone around to visit and interact with the members of the community. I've come again now to the hospital to see the injured. And this will help me to know the level of expertise that I need to put on the table in conducting the inquiry into what happened on Sunday, so that that inquiry can come up with relevant recommendations that will guide us in the conduct of our operations going forward.
We're not going to relent to our actions, because these criminals, we must defeat them by God grace. So we are going to continue fighting the criminals till we succeeded on fighting against banditry and other criminalities in this country. Therefore, it is just an unfortunate incident that happens, and God has already destined that this will happen, and it has happened. All we do is to pray for the deceased who already gone, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless them with Al-Jannah to Firdaus, and for those in the hospital to have a prayer.
Some of the soundbite from the saying from Chief of Army Staff and the Minister of State for Defense, Bello Matawale. Let's get some insight on this one for those who are worked around the security situation in Kaduna State, spoken to leaders, spoken to stakeholders, and will perhaps have some insights into this matter. Tonight, I'm being joined by Professor Usman Yusuf. Thank you so much, Prof, for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me, Shehu.
How do you describe this kind of incident, Prof?
Every Nigerian, every human being is saddened by what we saw. My description is, it's not acceptable. This is totally irresponsible. This is not the first time. We've had such incidences in Borno State, Nasarawa State recently. We've had incidents in Benue State. We've had such incidences in Kaduna State, and now in Kaduna State, the home state of the Chief of Defense Staff. Each time we hear the military telling us it was a mistake, regrettable. Our military killing our people instead of protecting our people. A time of war, when our people are suffering, bandits are killing us all over the land, the military is dropping ordnance on our people. It's not acceptable. What this has shown, number one, is clear incompetence. You have a young operative somewhere sitting, watching a screen, and then just dropping a bomb on people, predominantly women and children.
It's an unmanned
Yeah, but somebody
drone.
did it. Yeah, somebody was managing it
Remotely.
Absolutely. It didn't come from the sky or from Niger or anywhere. Drones are controlled. Somebody must take responsibility. And it shows incompetence, it shows lack of training, and it shows lack of supervision in the military. Who gave this young operative order to press that button to drop a bomb? Who did? We are dropping a bomb on human beings, predominantly women and children. We have seen clips, videos of this family, of these children and women before. And we saw them charred in this bomb. They should not be bombing people, they should go and be bombing Sambisa Forest.
Have you heard the side of the Nigerian the defense headquarters, what they said about this? The defense headquarters has said it is regrettable, and the fact that the military views these, that every civilian death in the course of operation is a tragedy, and such tragedies are needless and unwanted, and which causes the armed forces to take extensive measures to avoid them. They went further to say, for instance, communities are to always alert troops of the activities, particularly when such a community is known to be infested with terrorists and their sympathizers. They are saying that oftentimes that there are embedding of terrorists within some of these communities. Doesn't this make the work of the military difficult?
This irritates everybody, and it should. Where is the military intelligence? What intelligence did they use to drop bombs on people? Do they think they are going to win this war on banditry just by dropping bombs from the sky?
They say that it should be noted that terrorists often deliberately embed themselves within civilian population centers for the civilian population to bear the consequences of their atrocities.
Right. For goodness sake, the military, whoever is writing this, they should take him off. This is a time when sensible, reasonable people should be talking. The military should completely own this tragedy and not be given excuses. These are excuses that we have no patience for. These are excuses. Whoever is writing that and sending it out should be removed from office. The military leadership should be more responsible to people in grief than that statement. That statement is saying is the fault of the people. No, it isn't. It's the fault of the military, it's the fault of the army specifically, because the Air Force came out the first time and disowned them and said in the last 24 hours they did not conduct any operation. It is the army, the air wing of the army that botched this operation, that killed our people. And they must take full responsibility. And my call to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the military cannot investigate itself, because it has not investigated itself in all the massacres it has conducted over the air.
If you are to advise, or if you are to say the kind of and the manner in which the investigation should go or take, what would you do?
Independent of the military. All the bombs they've dropped on people over the last, and all the 5 states they did, what came of it in their investigation? I am calling on President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to institute a high-powered, independent investigative committee headed by a retired Chief Justice of the Federation. And in that committee, there should be a retired Chief of Service Chief, and an emir, traditional clerics, and CSOs to protect civilians. The military is supposed to protect us, not be killing us. And let me say this only vindicates the concern international community has been having about Nigerian army. You remember during the time of Jonathan, they stopped selling weapons, lethal weapons, to the Nigerian armed forces because of this. And we are seeing this. The world is watching. You are dropping bombs on innocent women and children, going on a religious procession. The military is threading on very, very thin ice. Very, very thin ice. This is, religion comes into this, we are dousing. Traditional rulers, clerics are now talking to people. This is a religious procession. Can Nigerians understand what would have happened if a Christian procession in Plateau or Kaduna was bombed? Big churches from the south specifically would have raised their voices all over Nigeria today. We need to be very, very careful. The military should know better. You become a general to think better than a captain. This is irresponsible.
I mean, in other times, if this kind of situation happens, what do you think would have
They will all resign. Everybody in the chain of command will be fired. The CDS, Chief of Defense Staff, everybody will go. And the president would have cut his trip, come back home and see our people. But here you are apologizing. Where are the ministers? You are going to talk to the Minister of Communication. No, you should be talking to the Ministers of Defense. You should be talking to the NSA. You should be talking to the service chiefs to explain to Nigerians why this happened and what are they going to do to prevent this. But the army cannot investigate itself. There should be a high-powered, independent committee headed by a retired CJN. And in there should be a service chief. What we need to see is thorough investigation to see what is the assessment, who gave this young operative the order to fire, what's the chain of command, what is the supervisory control. There is no control.
Can you hold a chief of army staff, a general in the army, for the error that is being made by a group in a particular division that carried out this kind of attack? How do you hold? What sense will it mean?
That's why he's the chief of army staff. You're in control of this studio, and anything that happens, you're responsible. And they need to understand, leaders have forfeited the right to make excuses. And this has been the excuses they've given us. You are the chief of army staff, 3-star general, over and above many officers for a very good reason. You give orders and you take responsibility. Who asked this young
resign or step aside? Or
all of them should go. The CDS, the chief of army staff, the GOC, the operative heads must roll. And whoever gave this authority, if there was no chain of command, if there is laxity in the chain of command, which I'm very sure there is, nowhere in the country would a young operative sit down before his screen and just press a button to drop a bomb and kill over 100 people without escalating that to the
Let's
higher
imagine
authority.
what is going on in the mind of the young fellow who triggered the UAV, who fired that bomb. Perhaps what we were seeing on the screen was a movement of the possible terrorists who they said have merged into these communities, and there are traces, there are historically how these terrorist elements have infested these areas and merged into the communities. Is it possible that some of these terrorists are so sly to the extent to have tricked our forces into this kind of mistake?
This is stupid excuses that we have no patience for.
I mean, just imagine.
No. Let me
just read in the mind.
Let me tell you
what the possibility.
That is the reason you should have intelligence on the ground.
Before taking a shot.
That young man sitting there doing that, he doesn't do it on his own. There has to be intelligence on the ground. They escalate to the big bosses. The big boss will ask him to do what he did. That is why only an independent committee, not within the military, can bring this out. The military cannot investigate itself, and we should not allow it to investigate itself. And the military, especially the army, it has shown its inexperience in all of this. It should suspend all drone activities until this is fully investigated.
Is this a setback of some sort?
Absolutely.
On the assault on terrorism in Nigeria?
So now we are talking. We have been talking the new service chiefs since they have come. They've been singing the same old song we've had over the last 8 years. But we have not seen any new ideas or plans to do anything differently. None.
But those who will say there is a lull in some of the terrorist activities within the Northwest region.
We know better. We know better. And we've said it again and we'll repeat it again. Banditry cannot be won on the battlefield. Anybody who says that does not know what he's doing, or he knows he's disingenuous. Back to this problem. This problem is sad, it's tragic, and people should be held responsible. From the Chief of Defense Staff, who is the top military officer, to the Chief of Army Staff, to the GOC, down the rank.
If you were President Tinubu, what would you do today?
Today, like I said, I will institute a high-powered investigative committee headed by a retired Chief Justice of the Federation.
Will you get on the ground yourself?
I did?
Would you get on the ground yourself?
Me as
if you were the president?
Absolutely. President Biden will go anywhere. As the president of the strongest country in the world. But our president just sit down there and just keep issuing affirmation by this thing. You need to be there. You need to talk to people.
85 persons.
More. No, it's more.
These are mothers.
It's more.
These are young girls.
These are children.
These are people, children.
These are children.
These are people's families. These are people who have future ahead of them.
Yes, and the army.
Yes. all of a sudden.
And the army is telling us they are infiltrated. Do not annoy us. You've annoyed us. You've killed enough people. Do the right thing. Accept responsibility, step back, and allow full investigation. Suspend all drone activities within that theater of operation. And Mr. President, we call on you to institute a high-powered committee headed by a retired Chief Justice of the Federation. There should be a retired service chief in there, amiens and traditional. This is taking religious dimension that we're asking people to calm down. Traditional rulers are working really hard. Clerics are working really hard. This was a religious procession that was bombed, innocent people, women and children, and the clips are all over the world. And the world is watching. The world is watching. Who will sell lethal arm to the Nigerian armed forces when they are dropping it on their people?
Prof, so sad, a sad day, a sad scenario, and this, the military has said, is perhaps the deadliest in any of the bomb accident that we've seen in this country. So sad. I'm hoping that a drastic decision and action will be taken to forestall any kind of recurrence. Thank you so much, Prof.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.